What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday, we had a brand new studio that was announced, and this one in particular made headlines because some of the key figures actually came from a very important studio at Microsoft that had people asking a lot of questions around Xbox, and we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about some new PlayStation 5 system bundles that appeared online a bit early and seem to be better value than some of the more recent bundles. And we also had a message that was sent out by Square Enix when it comes to Final Fantasy XVI and if it will be releasing on platforms outside of PlayStation. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps that a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with Naughty Dog and Neil Druckmann talking with Gene Park at the Washington Post about video games and kind of world building and development going into the future. We can see this transcription from IGN, where he says, some of the best storytelling in The Last of Us is in the cinematics, but a lot of it is in gameplay and moving around the space, and understanding the history of a space by just looking at it and examining it. To me, right now, that's some of the best joy I get out of games that trust their audience to figure things out. Games that don't hold your hand, that's the stuff I'm really intrigued by going forward. A very good interview by Gene Park at the Washington Post with Neil Druckmann. Make sure you go check it out. But I like the idea of going towards letting the player, I'd say, figure it out, but kind of discover for themselves. A lot of games recently I've been playing, you take one look at a puzzle or you just sort of wander a bit and your companion will start trying to pull you in the right direction or even solve the puzzle for you. I know there's a lot of playtesting and these are probably spots where people get stuck during these focus groups, but still, it does feel like they are breaking it down to the lowest common denominator. And that's probably why Elden Ring felt like such a breath of fresh air, because they legitimately let you just go and discover things for yourself. So I like the idea of Neil Druckmann taking notice of that and considering that going forward with some of the projects that Naughty Dog is working on could lead to some very intriguing worlds that they build out. Also, we did have an announcement from Xbox when it comes to games showing up on Game Pass over the next week or so, but there was one other thing I wanted to point out here, which we can see this over on news.xbox.com, just going over some of the dates for these games. Persona 3 Portable, Cloud, Console, and PC, along with Persona 4 Golden showing up January 19th, and then Monster Hunter Rise, Cloud, Console, and PC January 20th. And we've gone over this a couple of times, but the thing that caught my eye and many other people is they say we're just getting warmed up and we'll be back soon with more games, more perks, and more news. And in fact, the URL says January 2023 Wave 1 announced, which, yes, leads everyone to believe there will be another wave of games, maybe to go along with some sort of presentation they're setting up for the end of this month. That's the nice thing about Game Pass to go along with these presentations. They can legitimately just drop games right then and there. It's in Game Pass, go check it out now, or just throw some announcements out for the following week. So yes, we have some pretty good titles to look forward to here, but it sounds like they're not done yet for the month of January. Oh, and here was kind of an interesting announcement, and it has to do with cell phones and Netflix. Take a look at this trailer. This is for TMNT Shredder's Revenge. That's right, it went to cell phone, so it is out now. It's iOS and Android, but the thing that caught me off guard a bit, it's through Netflix, to where if you have a Netflix account, you sign in, you just download the game and you play it. This kind of gets around the idea of having these higher priced games, and I know TMNT Shredder's Revenge is not like a $60 or $70 game, but it may as well be when you put it on like the Android or iOS store at $25 or something. That's significantly higher than, I don't know, free. So the idea of, oh, if you have a Netflix account, you also have this benefit of a really good beat 'em up game like Shredder's Revenge. It's kind of an intriguing way for Netflix to approach the cell phone market. I don't know how well it'll work on a touch screen. I know the controls themselves are simplistic enough, but you're going to be kind of mashing that touch screen over and over again. However, if you have a Netflix account and you don't mind playing on your cell phone, well, there you go. You can download it now and try it out. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a new studio that was announced yesterday. Typically, I see these studio announcements, there's not a lot of interest there, because when you have a studio that's just announced, you know it's going to be years and years and years before you see whatever it is they're setting out to create. This one, though, drew some interest online because of the people forming the studio, and you're going to recognize at least one of these people, especially if you've been paying attention to the Forza Horizon series. We can see this posted up by Eurogamer, where they say a group of Forza Horizon developers have quit Xbox's Playground Games to form a new studio, Maverick Games. The fresh team is led by Playground veteran and Forza Horizon 5 creative director Mike Brown, with work already underway on the new premium open world game for consoles and PC. So Mike Brown in particular kind of sat down and talked about Forza Horizon 5 during Xbox's showcase a year or two ago, and that's the one that a lot of people are pointing to as like one of the big figureheads leaving Playground Games to do this. And in fact, there's an entire interview over on gamesindustry.biz where he gets a bit more in depth as to exactly why he's venturing off and forming this studio that currently has 10 employees, but they're looking to build up to 140 employees. So they have quite a bit of building to go through now, and they're certainly in kind of that entry-level phase where they're drawing things up for this AAA open-world game. He says games are made in a very certain way that brings with it real security. We know that if we do these things in a row, we will hit this date and the game will come out. I think there are other ways where you can still hit that date, but also do a load of new things on the way. It is a truism that you can be creative or you can be cautious, but you can't be both. You either decide to mitigate risks, which limits creativity, or you embrace risks, which releases creativity. We are going to build a team where we really encourage them to take creative risks, to try new things, and really celebrates that as part of our culture. And this is one of the bigger things that people were talking about online after reading through the interview, because it does seem like he's saying, yeah, there was a lot of security. I mean, we're working on these Forza games. It was a consistent paycheck there. I knew I had a position at all times, and we were going to get another Forza Horizon to work on, or another Forza game in general, and it'll just be the status quo. But as he mentioned here, it works as it's laid out, but it can stifle creativity because you're working on Forza Horizon. Realistically, there's only so much you can do with a racing game. Sure, they can change their settings and you get new cars and you can come up with different tracks and maybe even mini games, but to then turn around and do an entirely new, fresh IP for an open world game that can be whatever you want, in a sense, that can be pretty liberating. Now, I did also see some people who said that it seems like Xbox is done. They're losing people from Playground Games. They lost like 5 or 6. I know Mike Brown, obviously being someone that was really in the spotlight for showcasing Forza Horizon 5. There's still plenty of people working at Playground Games right now, especially on something like Fable. And then you also have Turn 10, who's currently working on the next Forza Motorsport that should be coming out in, I assume, 3 or 4 months. So I don't think this is like a detriment or like a nail in the coffin for Xbox and Playground Games, as some people were trying to play it up online. And I also don't think this is an indictment on their work culture there. It's just, hey, we worked on Forza a lot. We want to go off and do something different now, even though it's very secure. They're doing the new Forza title that would inevitably come out. We would just want to go try something else because we've accrued enough money and found investors to take a shot. And that's what they're going to do, is take a shot. It's just going to be a while before we see it. I'm thinking at minimum 3 years before we find out exactly what this AAA open world game is that Maverick is working on. Next up, let's talk about Final Fantasy 16. We of course know it's coming out June 22nd, and I'm very excited for this game to come out. It's looked better and better every time they've shown it, and the talent behind it with Yoshi P steering the ship, there's also a lot of confidence behind this game. But there is one oddity that's popped up here and there with it, and that has to do with it releasing outside of the PlayStation ecosystem, specifically on PC. If you remember, we had the trailer that was first showcased, and it did mention PC, and then we saw one that mentioned a timed exclusivity window of 6 months, and people are figuring, all right, it's going to come to PC eventually, since we did see Final Fantasy VII Remake go to PC after some time. Well, it seems like Yoshi P is at least trying to sell it as it just being a PlayStation 5 game, at least for now. We can see this posted up over on Twitter. This translated by Genki, where he says, "Nobody said a word about a PC version releasing. Why is it like a PC version is releasing 6 months later? Don't worry about that. Buy a PS5. Sorry, I went overboard. We did our best, so please look forward to it." Obviously, they don't want people to just wait for a PC version that could be, at this point, years down the line. We saw the trailer and we saw the timed exclusivity that was mentioned for about 6 months, but things change. It's very clear that at some point, the game was probably going to be on Xbox just based on retail listings, and at one point, just straight up box art that got out there saying that it was like a PlayStation timed exclusive for Final Fantasy VII Remake. It seems like Sony and Square got back together at the bargaining table, and, well, Final Fantasy VII Remake is still just on PlayStation 4 and 5, and kind of think the entire trilogy is gonna be that way for the Remake series, at least until, I don't know, maybe 10 years after it's out or something, and it's a Persona situation all over again there. But in the case of Final Fantasy 16, he just doesn't want people to wait potentially years. They want to sell as many as they can up front, because this is obviously a massive budget for this game, and yeah, Sony is helping with that by showing up with, I'm sure, a pretty large amount of money to keep it exclusive to the PS5. But I do think a PC version will come down the road, but how long? That's the big question here. Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? I guess we'll find out whenever they do eventually announce it for PC, but as of now, as Yoshi P is saying, it's just for PS5, so apparently buy the console. Next up, let's talk about some new PlayStation 5 bundles that appeared online a bit early and they were then pulled down. And we've seen some PS5 bundles so far, God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West, which comes with codes, I believe, for the games, not even physical copies of them. I guess that kind of makes sense, though, if they want to package it with the all-digital PS5, just putting codes in the different boxes is easier. But it looks like there would be another bundle that could be coming up here soon. We can see this posted, caught by VGC with Zubitech, who noticed that there were 2 different bundles that will come with an extra DualSense controller. And in fact, one even went live on EB Games in Australia for $894 in Australia. So that still is more than I would expect, as that exceeds $600. Again, it's not official yet. I'm thinking the price for something like this would just be the PS5 plus the DualSense controller anyway. We're seeing Sony play around with different bundles. The one that I saw in stores was just the God of War bundle, and it's more money than the $500 is what, like $550 or $560. So it's basically the system and then almost the full price game on top of it. That way Sony can technically raise the price without actually raising the suggested sticker price in different stores. I did see a couple on their website, though, that were just the digital and physical disc taking version at $500 and $400. So it does seem like they're still putting them out there, but Sony definitely wants to have these bundles sell so they can, make more money, but also try to even out some of the issues they've had in the back end when it comes to more expensive materials. However, I do kind of think the idea of getting a PS5 system and an extra controller is just much better than getting a system with a game that hopefully you'll like. There is value in the DualSense controller. Obviously, you can have another person play, but if you don't want it, you can resell it, trade it in, do something with it. Whereas if you get a game code, I guess you could try to resell it on eBay or something, but it's more work to do that as opposed to just a DualSense controller that is indeed physical as it is. It's a bit easier to sell that or trade it in somewhere. So I do see this one as a bit more valuable than the God of War or even the Horizon Forbidden West bundle, if nothing else, because you will be guaranteed some sort of physical merchandise in the box that's not just a code on a piece of paper. We'll see if these get announced worldwide. As of now, it seems like something that's been popping up specifically in Australia. I think this is just another bundle that Sony will be announcing here in the coming months, though. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Hogwarts Legacy, which is a game that's been quite divisive online, and it's not really necessarily about the game itself, just a lot of other things surrounding it. But I did also want to talk about the sales potential for this game, because Harry Potter, massive intellectual property, clearly, and this game in particular continues to look pretty good as they've shown more and more, and it appears right now it's getting a pretty big response on PC, which we can see posted up over on the Steam bestsellers list. These are the top sellers, and we can see the top 4. 3 of them are free-to-play titles, which you can only imagine the microtransactions and other avenues of revenue that are piling up there. And then the Steam Deck that's priced at $400. The big thing to realize with this is it's by revenue, not by units sold. So you have a Steam Deck at $400 that's going to be pulling in quite a bit more revenue per sold compared to number 5, which is Hogwarts Legacy. That game's not out for another month, and it's at number 5. And in fact, if you look at all of the games that have premium prices attached to it, like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, it's the highest selling one currently. And you know what? I think Hogwarts Legacy is going to do extremely well just in terms of sales. I still have to see how it does in terms of reviews, but I wouldn't be shocked if this ends up being similar to what we saw with Elden Ring, where that just exploded out of the gate and is currently right now coming up on 20 million copies sold within its first year. We'll see if Elden Ring can get to that milestone. I think Hogwarts Legacy is going to do something very similar and would probably even exceed that if things work out correctly for it in terms of the review scores and everything there. Also think about this. It's going to have, I think, 3 different releases. It's going to come out on the Series X, the PS5, and the PC. Then it'll come out on the PS4 and the Xbox One. And then it'll come out on the Switch. I think the PS5, Series X, and PC are going to be where most of the sales happen, but you can't really discount it going to a system like the PS4 that has a very large install base, tack that on with the Xbox One, and then, oh yeah, the Switch with probably north of 120 million units sold by the time Hogwarts Legacy releases. So I am going to be very curious to see what kind of sales Hogwarts Legacy is capable of, provided the review scores are able to come in, I'm going to say in the mid to low 80s. I think Warner Bros. Is going to have a hit on their hands, but I guess we'll see here in about a month, because WB surely will be talking about sales numbers if it does really, really well. They did it with Lego Star Wars, so wouldn't be shocked if they did it with their big release out of Avalanche. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, which of these games do you think will end up selling the best in 2023? And I had a feeling a lot of people would vote for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and rightfully so. It should be the front runner currently with how well Breath of the Wild sold over time. It did well out of the gate, but it certainly accrued a lot of the sales numbers we see now over the past 6 years, just about. But then we also see Spider-Man 2 above Hogwarts Legacy, which is at number 3, then Resident Evil 4 Remake, and then, man, Final Fantasy 16, although 16 is just releasing on the PlayStation 5, that is still building up its install base. I still think Hogwarts Legacy is going to surprise people, but my pick just right now, so for the rest of the year, what's going to sell between its release and the end of 2023, I'm still sticking with the safe bet that's Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, but I'm telling you, don't be surprised if Hogwarts Legacy has this explosive debut and just keeps running till the end of the year. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Chrono saying the Nixie controller Joy-Cons looks really cool. I hope the build quality is good. I think Mad Catz has perma-scarred me from third-party options, but these are tempting. You know, third-party controllers have come a long way, haven't they? Back then, I'm saying like the PlayStation 1 or the PS2 era in there with the GameCube and the Xbox, if a friend came over, they got the Mad Catz controller. You kept the nice first party or the nice Wavebird controller to yourself, right? And now we're seeing third-party controllers come out that are actually better than the first-party controller. So it's much better than what we used to have to deal with back then with the weird, janky Mad Catz controller. And is that the one we all remember? Is Mad Catz? Because, yeah, those were pretty bad, and it seems like it was universally that way for most of us. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was Maverick Games, some big figureheads from Playground Games heading off to make their own studio. Are you excited to see what game they can come up with? And then also, what about Final Fantasy 16? How long do you think it'll be until the PC version shows up, if it shows up? And then also this PlayStation 5 bundle with an extra controller. Do you think that is a better deal than getting something like a random game or maybe a God of War or Horizon attached to it? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.